This is a boring $30 PC, and out of the box it could barely push 720p with terrible FPS. But after a few upgrades, everything changed. The looks, the performance, the entire experience. And today's main character is once again a Dell Optiplex 7020. But this time, I'm taking a completely different approach compared to my previous video. With a bit more creativity and a lot of careful planning, this machine has become more powerful than ever, while still staying incredibly budget-friendly. If you're gaming on a tight budget, this one's for you. Alright, let's get to work and upgrade it. As you guys can see, this thing is tiny. We're talking roughly 7 liters of total volume. That's the whole point of this design. It's made for people who want something small, clean, and convenient. But here's the catch. A lot of these were sold as straight-up office PC, usually running on a 4th generation Intel CPU, and basically nothing else. And if you accidentally bought one of these and thought, yeah, I'll just play modern games on it, yeah, that's a rough mistake. Because turning a 7-liter office box into a modern gaming machine is a nightmare. But it's not impossible. And I'm not going to fix it the normal way either. I'm doing it the most unhinged way possible. Honestly, I don't think anyone's tried it like this before. As you can see inside, space is extremely limited. My goal here is pretty ambitious. I want to fit a full-size GPU while still keeping the system as compact as possible. But let's be real, this kind of upgrade always comes with trade-offs. And honestly, some parts of this machine just aren't that essential anymore. First, I'm planning to relocate the power supply into the space where the DVD drive used to be. That also means the entire drive cage has to go. Next problem, the front I/O ports. They're in the way of the GPU upgrade, so they're gone too. No hesitation. I don't really need them anyway. The rear I/O already covers everything I use day to day. Even the speakers and ventilation fan have to go, just to make enough room for the power supply. After removing everything and test fitting the PSU, I realized it was still too bulky. The housing was pressing right up against the motherboard cables, stuff I can't reroute or replace. So I made a pretty bold call. I stripped the entire PSU casing off and kept only the bare power supply internals. And honestly, once the metal shell was gone, everything suddenly fit perfectly. No cable pressure, no forced bends, no sketchy contact points. This one decision freed up a huge amount of space, enough to finally make room for a full-size GPU inside this tiny case. Not exactly safe, definitely not recommended, but incredibly effective. My plan was to mount it behind the front mesh, but I needed something to isolate the bare metal from the PCB. So I went with a thick piece of cardboard as insulation, then secured everything tightly in place. This step mattered a lot. Any contact with the case could cause a short, and that's game over. I routed the power inlet to the front, cutting a clean hole just big enough for the jack. The PSU original small cooling fan didn't go to waste either. I mounted it on the top panel. You know, this was never meant to be its original spot, so I had to drill a few holes to give the fan some room to breathe. That airflow path is almost identical to the stock PSU design, so overheating wasn't a big concern. Once the PSU finally had a home, at the cost of some safety and a lot more caution on my end, I gained something huge in return. A massive amount of internal space. Enough to install a full-size GPU directly into the case. No PCIe X16 riser cable needed, and no extra money wasted. But here's the real problem. The case is only 9 centimeters wide, while my GPU is 11 centimeters thick. Yeah, that's not even close. At that point, there was only one solution left. Go full caveman and cut the case open. I needed to carve out a section big enough for the GPU to actually sit inside the system. The plan itself was simple. Measure once, cut 10 times. And pray I don't slice my hand open in the process. The tricky part wasn't the cutting, it was the aftermath. Aluminum shavings flying everywhere is a nightmare, especially if they end up on the motherboard. One tiny metal fragment in the wrong place and the board is done. So I had to be extra careful, covering, isolating, and doing everything I could to keep metal debris far away from the components. Mesh this up and the upgrade ends right here. One more problem. The shroud was so big that I couldn't screw the GPU in normally. That meant gravity would eventually win, and the card would start sagging. So I made a small cut in the frame and left just enough material to act as a brace, pressing against the shroud to support the GPU. And honestly, it worked way better than I expected. Everything lined up perfectly. The GPU looks like it was meant to live here from day one. Alright, this is the moment of truth. Time to hit the power button and see if it actually works. And more importantly, how it performs. Alright, let's check the specs real quick. Everything is detected properly, no missing parts. So far, so good. Now it's time to see how this thing actually handles games. The moment I jumped in, one problem became obvious. The stock cooler just isn't cutting it. It gets way too hot and simply can't keep an 80-watt CPU under control. So I did the same thing I did with the GPU. I swapped it out for a proper 4-heat pipe air cooler. Of course, nothing is ever that simple. The motherboard uses a proprietary fan connector, but that's not a deal breaker. I just repinned the fan cable and plugged it straight into the custom header. Simple fix, and it worked perfectly. That upgrade did come with one more consequence though. I had to cut the side panel again. To get it right, I marked the contact points using a bit of thermal paste on top of the cooler, pressed the panel on, and instantly knew exactly where to cut. A few careful trims later, the side panel fit back on without any resistance. Alright, so at this point the CPU temps are down by about 30 degrees Celsius, which is a huge win. But after some game testing, it became pretty obvious that the GTX 1050 Ti just isn't strong enough for more demanding, graphics-heavy titles. Sure, I could upgrade to an RTX 3050 to 6GB, but that instantly blows the budget. Instead, I went hunting for something much faster, but still around 1050 Ti money. And that's where the GTX 1060 to 6GB comes in. Now here's where things get a little sketchy. The GTX 1060 needs a 6-pin power connector. I didn't want to add a second power supply just for the GPU, so I used a SATA to 6-pin adapter. And yeah, this is the part where I start getting nervous. On paper, it's not great. The stock power supply is only 255 watts. The GTX 1060 can pull up to 120 watts. PCIe slot gives 75 watts. A SATA power line is only rated for about 20 to 25 watts. So technically, that's not enough power, and I'll be honest. This setup is risky for the entire system, but GPU don't pull max power all the time. And that's where my workaround comes in. I'll show you that in a moment. To reduce the load, I made a pretty bold decision. I shared the SATA power line by adding another SATA connector for the SSD. Sounds scary, but the SSD only needs under 5 watts. So it barely affects the GPU power budget. At this point, everything finally comes together. Questionable? Definitely. Functional? Somehow? Yes. Before jumping into the game tests, I had to undervolt the GPU so it wouldn't pull too much power. I capped it under 100 watts, which does mean losing around 10 to 15% performance in heavier games. But honestly, that trade-off is worth it. This setup is already pushing the limits of the power supply, and I'd rather lose a bit of FPS than turn this PC into a ticking time bomb. In CS2, the GPU isn't really breaking a sweat. It's clearly CPU limited, with the card sitting at around 50% usage, pulling roughly 60 watts and delivering 120 to 150 frames per second. Totally playable, no complaints there. Switching to something more GPU heavy like Minecraft with shaders, performance actually looks solid. FPS climbs close to 60, and more importantly, power draw stays under 100 watts, right in the safe zone. That said, the CPU bottleneck becomes even more obvious here. In GTA 5, I'm getting a comfortable 60 frames per second, which is more than enough to enjoy the game. Power consumption is surprisingly low too, hovering just above 50 watts. So yeah, this boring old office PC has officially been pushed to a whole new level. It now hits my goal of playing basic modern games, and the best part is, I didn't have to spend much to get here. Of course, there's a downside. With such a low wattage power supply, I can't confidently run very GPU-heavy games like Cyberpunk 2077. Sustained high load pushes the system right to the edge, and that's when things get risky. Overheating SATA cables, potential hardware damage, the whole nightmare scenario. This setup works, but it's not a long-term solution. The safer move would be switching to a low-powered GPU around 75 watts, so the power supply isn't constantly fighting for its life.